Let me go off like a blister in the sun. This is the final word. Australia, Pakistan. Daily, it's the Boxing Day test. It's day one. Jeff Lemon, Adam Collins. Show's brought to you by CBUS. Super.
Sure is.
We've got a busker playing in the background. It's just cranking out some Paul Kelly tracks. Now we've got a bit of Violent Femmes. Classically Christmas. Classically Melbourne. Violent Femmes. That's what you think of. But what you think of Christmas, Melbourne, you think of this test match. You think of the fact that a game gets played here as it has happened every year since 1998, 99, I reckon. Is that the 97-8's the last time they didn't have one on Boxing Day? One that started on Boxing Day.
Did it? Oh no, right, yeah, 94, right, yeah. It started on Christmas Eve. We've got got a remix of a Yaz song going on as well. It's all happening here.
All right. First though, you have to tell us all about the day in the space of 30 seconds.
Okay, why not? Australia sent in, as is the custom at Melbourne these days, after the side that batted second, winning the last three test matches since the pitch got the concrete slab taken from underneath it, enough on the surface. Australia lose one wicket in each session after looking like they'll get through the first one unscathed. Warner out. What became the final ball from it, caught a slip from the bowling of Salmon, gets a wicket after 40 wicketless overs last week. Kawaja, catching practice, a second slip for 42. Warner made 38, by the way. Smith, 26, caught behind in the final session after a 3-hour rain delay. 3 for 187 at the close. Labuschagne still there for a gritty 44, batting with Travis Head, who's chancing his hand.
There you go. That was good. That was 30-ish.
After 15 seconds talking about the surface,
yeah,
you
know. Really
don't know why I did that.
You gave yourself. It was like the stall gift, you know, where there's a handicap.
Yeah.
Okay, can I get through a 30-second summary in 14 seconds? Because
like when Kathy Freeman won the 400 at the stall gift, one of the great YouTube clips. I think 1995, 1996. She's like, there are runners who are more than 100 metres ahead of Freeman when she started on scratch, and of course stormed home to win at stall on Easter Monday.
Imagine if Bruce McAvaney had been commentating that.
Commentating. I would love Hawthorn, Australia, to stop playing Geelong on Easter Monday so I could go to Stall Gift one day. Not that I live in the country.
No, true. Not you're rarely there, but if you could be there. Anyway, Pakistan, look, we ended up getting 66 overs in. That felt like a bit of a win, given that there was, 2.5 hours of...
She was a long time off.
Of rain. It was one big rain delay. There was a big storm that was coming in from the north to the south. One of those big fluorescent blobs on the radar that just looks like some sort of, I don't know, it's the future and some sort of swarm of electronic locusts or something is invading. And you're like, oh, this looks bad. We're going to lose the rest of the day. But they got back on probably with about 20 minutes to spare, I think. If it had been raining for another 20 minutes or so, they wouldn't have had time to do the clean-up and get them on by the scheduled close by 5:30 p.m. here. But they did get them back on before that, and that meant they were able to play through till 7 o'clock. So we got a fair bit in, considering no team would have bowled more than 86 overs, except New Zealand, I guess. We only lost 20 overs out of the day, and they'll start half an hour early on the subsequent days and maybe make them up. There might be a few more showers, who knows? Yeah,
and look, Pakistan, with all that in mind, they did have a foreboding, cliche period of time where the clouds were descending upon the G. They didn't turn the lights on till about 20 minutes after they should have. The light meter was already out with Joel Wilson before they flicked the button to put the MCG light towers into action. But it did mean that they had, I would say a 30 to 45 minute period where it was dark. It was a little bit like Edgbaston, that mini session Australia enjoyed against England, that first test during the Ashes. But they didn't quite make the most of it. They did get Kawaja, but they had easily the chance to get into Australia's lower middle order. Yeah. And it didn't quite work out. It was a bloody good spell from Mir Hamza and Shaheen Shah Afridi bowling in tandem. That was the only time in the day when they were really on top. Even those passages of play when the Australians weren't scoring, for the most part they were doing it kind of ugly but on their terms. That bit of play was when a lot of balls were beating the bat. The ball stayed so new for so long. That was a feature of today. The ball at 60, 70 overs, whatever we're up to now, 66, it's still got riding on it because there's that grass on the pitch, and what I mentioned in my protracted intro, there's that 30 centimetre slab of concrete that they ripped out after the 2018 Test match here, and it's totally changed the way you experience Test cricket at Melbourne. I reckon this is just about the best pitch in the country now, and it was clearly the worst. It's near enough to the best. Perth's pretty good too.
It was almost the worst in the world. It was awful. I remember you and I sitting here through that 17-18 match, just being like, we want to be anywhere else. We want to be doing anything else. This is this dream job we've cultivated for ourselves, and we were like, this is awful.
Yeah, and it was consecutive years as well. You rocked up on Boxing Day. I remember that first over in 2018 when a ball bounced twice before reaching Tim Payne's gloves, and you're like, uh-oh, here we go again. This is the very opposite of that. I spoke to one of the curators before play today. This is a harder pitch than the last 3 years, so a combination of grass, albeit maybe not quite as much as last year, but that with a harder surface. Balls are flying through. It is a genuine challenge challenge to be batting out there, and that was met by the Australians for the most part.
Yep.
It reinforces how profligate the dismissal on the cusp of lunch was, and that could be Hall of Fame, but I'll mention it now. Salman was so clever. I had my binoculars on him. He realised that it was, what was lunch today? It would have been 12:30. It was 12:29 and like 30 seconds. Then it was 12:29 and 40 seconds. And with about 10 seconds to go, he hung his hat on the stumps and I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, right.
And that was enough to convince Joel Wilson to let them at it.
Yeah.
Next ball gets Warner, caught it slip. Nice snaffle from Barbara Azam.
Yep.
Warner gone for 38. If they go to lunch, none for 90 on a pitch like that, and a lively pitch like that, with a ball that's moving around, that would have been a mighty effort. Instead, it's not on as even. You need to get Australia more in the hole than this for it to be on as even after bowling first. But Pakistan held their own for 2 sessions at least.
Horrible shot from Warner. It was so wide and went throwing the bat at it. And Salman did that as well late, just before stumps. He walked over to the umpire as the umpire was coming in from square leg when it was 6:59. Walked about 15 metres over to the umpire and gave him his hat.
Yeah.
So he's like, cool, you got the hat now, we've got a bowl.
I like Salman.
And it ticked over. I was watching this. The clock ticked over to 7 before the umpire had reached the stumps.
Yep.
Wasn't in position, which is technically the technicality, but was, I suppose, in inverted commas, ready to be the umpire because he had the hat and the jumper that he was folding up.
It's good.
So
it's actually really smart cricket. We've been critical of a lot of what Pakistan did last week, like little 1%ers, the way that Imam Al-Haq was backing up, for example, felt symptomatic of a side that wasn't as switched on as they might be. But that was, I think Salman has a test career in him. He's averaging 80 odd this year, so clearly he's equal to playing.
With the bat, you mean?
With the bat, but didn't take a wicket across 40 overs last week at Perth. And
so probably averaging 80 odd with the ball as well.
Probably averaging 80 odd with the ball. But I just feel like, I don't know, something about him, the intangibles. I feel like he's the guy who, we might see for 5 or 6 years playing
He's
Test
got a bit of X factor. He's a jet on the training track, absolute weapon. He's
training the house down.
He's been tearing up the training track during the off season.
He ran the tan track in 12 minutes.
Ran the tan in 12. Terrific Mad Monday costume as well. He came as an ATM. Incredible. Yeah, he had the little roll of paper came out and everything. Really, really put all of the effort into it.
Next year he's going to come as Kevin Bartlett.
What I enjoyed particularly, so when you're talking about honours even, it's always the old, add a couple to the score kind of situation. If they could stop this partnership between Labuschagne and Head building tomorrow, and chip away another one at some point and keep the scoring down. So nobody out of the 5 batters today, nobody's got a strike rate above 50. They all went in the 30s and 40s. It's been a grind, and it means that Pakistan is still within reach.
Yep.
And I still think, even though they didn't rip out more than 3 wickets today, it was still the right move to bowl, I reckon,
totally.
because had they batted first, Pakistan are probably 6 down or 8 down, or all out.
If Pakistan would like to bat first,
Today.
they're all out.
Yeah, today.
They are not batting overnight, and that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to come back to it throughout the course of the week, I'm certain.
Yeah.
The Australian bowling attack monster you on surfaces like this.
That's the
they
thing.
did it to South Africa last year on a slightly easier surface to bat on than this, I fancy. I think that's how it'll play out. They absolutely did it to England 2 years ago, and India did it to Australia with an excellent bowling attack led by Mohammad Siraj here in 2020. So, I feel like if you bowl on day one here at Melbourne, if you get the full 80 overs in, or 90 overs, in, and they didn't get to that, you've got to be bowling sides out.
But with the 66, it would have ended up being bowled.
Yep.
Or probably the 60 had Australia been bowling, given how slow they are in the field.
Oh, well, it was a good effort from Pakistan not to get the overs in, despite the fact that they got an extra half an hour, and they had nowhere near the full complement to bowl. It's still falling 3 or 4 overs short. That takes some doing. So not having a spinner doesn't help.
Every side is really working towards that. But I just think as a defensive move, they avoided facing Australia today under those most difficult conditions, and that was probably smart. So they've put themselves in a position where now they're still in the game, and if they can press tomorrow, if they, you get Travis Head to a attacking shot tomorrow or whatever it is, Labuschagne mistake early, something, then they can try to work their way through the rest.
How about Travis Head having the deep third? Well, it's kind of like a deep fly slip where they've got him at the moment playing that shot immediately upon coming to the crease, and it didn't go anywhere near that fielder in the end, but just the fact that he's willing to take it on. So, we've seen Head play some of his best Test innings on surfaces just like this. It'll be interesting to see the way he goes about it in the morning. We saw it at the Gabba last year.
The spinner past second slip in that last over of the day as well, which was so close, and it was smart from Shah Massoud to bring himself into second. It was just hit. The edge was flying too fast. He couldn't get across.
So Head made 95 at the Gabba last year, a century at Hobart on a green top, 100 in really tough conditions against England at Brisbane to start that Ashes series. So he's the kind of guy.
India ton, the Oval in similar conditions.
Absolutely, can't forget that. One of the
so
all
green top, big fast green top scores.
Yeah, so you'd back head to back himself tomorrow. And for Labuschagne, never made 100 here. I think he averages 27 coming into today at the MCG.
Never crashed. He's an excellent driver.
True. But whether he can make the most of the start that he now enjoys. He's been out there for 120 balls for his 44. At one stage, he and Smith were absolutely crawling. Smith was caught behind for...
What is that, 18? It was 21 of 18 overs, I think, at one point.
Yeah, I mean, there was one period where they didn't score off the bat for 6 overs. I think I'm right in saying Smith, 26 from 75. He was eventually caught behind from the bowling of Jamal, one that got sent upstairs, and he just touched. And he was saved by about a centimetre on DRS. A league before shout from Shaheen. I was on commentary and I just wrote it off. I'm like, well, if Shaheen's appealing and there's not much support from behind the wicket, he appealed with one that hit Smith in basically the breast the previous over.
Sure.
I'm not taking it too seriously, but up went the finger of Michael Gough. Then I took it seriously, but it was going over by a centimetre.
And Gough thought about it for quite a long time. I think Gough was thinking about, is it pitching in line more than is it, like, what's the height? Because it got him around the knee roll, but he was well back inside his crease at that point, and he was kind of, he wasn't up on his toes, and so I just thought, given the relative lack of bounce, I thought that looked pretty good live. It was just whether it pitched in line. It was swinging in that left arm over angle, swung in and just pitched in line. So Gough was vindicated on DRS with that, but the bounce said it was carrying. So it's interesting, the one in Perth that didn't carry, according to ball tracking last week, that was clipping the bail. And then this one that did carry on a slower surface where you're not getting anything like the same sort of bounce traditionally.
And the only other wicket was when Khawaja mentioned before, he just misjudged a dab, really, a steer, and placed it into the hands of Salman at second slip to give Hassan Ali a wicket upon his return.
Much like his half-century celebration all those years ago, misjudged a dab.
Yes, it was against Pakistan, wasn't it?
I think it was.
The SCG, long time ago. We've got corporate knowledge now, Jeff and I. We've been doing this quite a long time. But yeah, Khawaja, there's that stat that's doing the rounds from Nick Savage, great lad, great journo too, saying that Khawaja's now faced more balls in 2023 than South Africa. That is obviously funny and tells a story. It tells two stories. One story about, well, three really. One about how effective Khawaja's been at absorbing pressure. Everlong going on behind us now.
Oh yeah.
Another great track. But also about how little Test cricket South Africa have played and how poor they've been. But involved within that is the meta-narrative of Shah Massoud. About 4 times now he's swung at this pitch about not playing enough Test cricket as a side. Their 5th Test of 2023. I mean, it's a problem. And if we just keep ignoring it, it's not going to get any better. 2 Test series. There's been more series played in total since the World Test Championship, 6 per side in that framework every 2 years.
Totally.
But the problem is when they're only over 2 Test matches, acknowledging this one's over 3, it does mean that sides who don't make as much money or aren't making as much money hosting or as draw cards away are only getting 2 Test series. And this will be one example where they get a 3rd, but that's a problem into the future. Remembering that they got 4 the last time they visited Australia back in 2016.
And a 2 Test series is like leaving the house party at 10 p.m. Like you've just started getting going, you're just warming up. The tunes are just starting to improve. In an hour or so, everyone's going to be jammed into the living room, spilling drinks on each other and having a great time, and you're already at home. You're just getting the rhythm of it. You're getting
it's a fling.
It's
a tryst.
Yeah, but it's not. It's
not a relationship.
No, it doesn't.
You don't build a rapport over 2 dates. Over 3 dates, maybe there's a bit more going on.
Yeah. Like a road trip movie needs 90 minutes. You can't just cut it off after the first half hour and be like, anyway, the end. So that's the 2 Test series. It doesn't let players get into the series in that way as well.
But it's doing over countries like South Africa. Yeah. So I appreciate that stat. It is funny. Yeah. But there's a sadder story that underpins all of it. But Khawaja, not to undermine what he's done, he's made over 1,200 runs this calendar year. No one else has made 1,000. That's very unusual for a calendar year with one player reaching 4 figures.
Yeah, most comedy is also tragedy. They're mixed in together. They're interwoven. So I mean, look, I guess not that much happened today. It was one of those grindy sort of days. Maybe it's Hall of Fame time already.
I think it is time to go to the CBUS Super Hall of Fame. I've had enough time to pull my phone out today, unlike last week where I had to pad the time for about 5 minutes. CBUS Super was established in 1984, created by workers for workers.
You mean like the book 1984, like the
same year? I was thinking more Arctic Monkeys, Dance Floor.
Oh, yeah.
4 decades on,
Gotcha.
where they are. We are one of Australia's leading super brand. CBUS Super looks after more than 900,000 of the best members and manages over 85 billion of their money as of the 30th of June this year. They're big, but they've never forgotten where they have come from. See how I'm using we than them, and my tenses are all over the place,
totally.
but you know what I'm trying to say.
Basically, you're saying they're the Jennifer Lopez of super. They are still CBUS from the block. Don't be fooled by the rocks that they've got. They're still CBUS from
Arctic
the block.
Monkeys and Jennifer Lopez in one
Do
ring.
a collab, you cowards. Do a collab.
Well, Alex,
Jenny, Monkeys.
I think Alex Turner might be up for that these days.
Yeah.
We've spoken about Alex Turner on the podcast before, and probably will again. We're a proud industry. We're back to where again. We're a proud industry super fund representing those that help build Australia. Advance Australia Fair. Everything that CBUS Super does benefits members and only members, so they can eventually enjoy the retirement they've worked bloody hard for. Wonderful returns, not a reliable indicator of future performance, those historic returns, but nevertheless impressive.
Yep.
You'll hear a lot more about them from us in 2024, which is their 40th birthday. cbussuper.com.au. Jeff, what was your favourite moment, your final word moment of the day for the Hall of Fame?
Hall of Fame, things I enjoyed. One just now, actually, when just after we were about a minute into this, and I heard a bunch of idiots down there going like, "Way!" And I just had this thought of, thank God we're on this balcony, because if we were down there, they would be clustered around us trying to put their tongues in our ears.
I quite like being here. It's not called the Rory Hilton Hotel anymore, but for a long time it was. It's where they stayed at the 1977 Centenary Test. One England fast bowler, as Jim tells the story, went up there on day one and didn't leave till evening 5. Found company with multiple friends, and he was in the Hilton for the whole week. We've spoken about him on Storytime. That'll narrow it down for you.
Used to be the Hilton cart. Right now, it's the Pullman. So I guess it's more a Paul Collingwood kind of establishment. But anyway, what else happened? Hall of Fame. I'm going to go with just for me Christmas Day. Spending like last night rummaging through all these crates of records. My brother-in-law, who's also named Adam, which is a bit odd. All these like obscure old records, and I found a 7-inch vinyl of the audio transmission of John Glenn, the astronaut, doing the first orbit flight in 1962.
Hero.
And they released the NASA comms as a record. So, we're all sitting there cheerful as lords at 8 o'clock last night, mixing the Negronis and listening to the NASA transmission of John Glenn going around the world for the first time.
Sounds like the sort of thing you do after chowing down on a joint.
Because if you chow down on one, then you've got it very wrong.
Watching Space Odyssey. Instead, you're listening to
John Glenn
orbiting the Earth,
crossing the coast of Australia and connecting to the relay stations. I had no idea this even existed, and there it was.
As soon as I get home this evening, which won't be long from now, given it's my last commitment of the day, I'll be tuning back into For All Mankind, which I'm quite into at the moment, which is broadly about the same topic. Hall of Fame moments. Dave Warner at one point today, I think it was Amir Jamal who was about to bowl from the Shane Warne stand end. And by the way, Shane Warne stand, they did a great job today with those heart tests up. I mean, there was queues miles back, people doing that.
Over 2,000 got done today.
They're going to talk more about that later in the week. We're working on setting up an interview on that. But Warner pulled out at the last possible moment, and by that I mean as Jamal's letting the ball go, and still had the presence of mind to stick his bat out and dab it down the third man. Obviously, the ball was declared dead. It would have been improper to have taken a run after pulling out. But, Warner always keeping us thinking. How about his leaves today when he was like, he's playing his second last test match, right? He's about 47. Letting the ball go and turning around. He's developed a new leaving technique with 2 test matches to go. So, David Warner always keeping you on your feet. So are our friends on the other side of the country. 62,000 people here today, right? More than attended the whole test last week. Is there a less secure group of sports fans in the world? I mean, fuck me. I saw so many people tweeting about the number of people here because after the rain delay and so on. I'm like, holy dooly, this is not the time. Boxing Day when they've outpolled you in one day. It's going to be okay, guys. I mean, you get the shit kicked out of you for a week a year because no one goes to your sporting events, right? Or no one goes to your test matches, right? Just wear it. Just wear it. It's not that big a deal, really, in the grand scheme of things. Can I read this? Nope, I can't read my notes. I can't read my notes on the third thing. They're my nominations.
Okay, good. Not reading your own handwriting. Maybe it's very useful in court. So at some point you'll be like, well, those may be my notes, but I could not possibly confirm or deny. All right, I think that's it. This has been The Final Word, Australia, Pakistan Daily. Thanks to CBUS. Thanks to you for watching. Patreon.com/thefinalword if you want to support the show.
Do it.
And we'll see you tomorrow on day 2.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, why not?
Have a happy New Year.
Yeah, that as well.